How can the most powerful empire in history fall without anyone pushing it? For centuries, Rome was far more than a city. It was the center of the world, the symbol of order, strength, and civilization. Its legends seemed invisible, its emperors immortal, but what appeared eternal was on the verge of collapse. It was not a sudden invasion. It was not a spiritual enemy. It was a slow, relentless, and painful decay. The true enemy did not come out from outside. It was already living within its walls. Today, we will relive the story of how Rome, the city where the gods worked among men, was reduced to silence by the very people it had once despised. Visigoths, Vandals, and the most feared of them all, Aila, the scourge of God. Prepare for a journey marked by ambition, collapse, and the end of an era that forever changed the destiny of humanity. But before we begin, subscribe to the Might and Rigas channel, Mile, so you don't miss our upcoming adventures, and telling us in the comments which other empire would you like to see fall in the next video. Alright, historians, it's time to march on Rome. For centuries, Rome was not just a capital. It was the heart of the world, the puzzle of absolute power. Its marble columns reflected the glory of an empire that believed itself eternal. In its forums echoed speeches that reshaped the fate of nations, and its legend closed continent as if the entire world were there by their divine right. Rome was invisible. Rome was immortal. But this is not a story of glory. It is a story of decline. Imagine walking those cobbled streets surrounded by temples dedicated to Jupiter, Mars, and Venus. Imagine feeling the power of a civilization that ruled from the cold island of Britannia to the burning sun of Egypt. In the Colosseum, the roar of the crowd rose as gladiators spilled blood for honor, while the Senate debated with the arrogance of those who believed they would never be defeated. And yet, that same marble that adorned the temples would soon be shattered. The statues of emperors once treated as demigods would lie broken in the dust, and the city that has taught the world the meaning of imperium would kneel before those it once called barbarians. The barbarians. Because Rome did not fall overnight. Its unraveling was a knuckle that dragged on for generations and opened wounds that never healed. And at the center of it all stood the eternal city, witness to its own greatness and victim of its own arrogance. This chapter marks the beginning of an imperial tragedy. There will be no clear heroes, no simple villains, only a civilization that flew so high it forgot how to keep its feet on the ground. And while the barbarians were still in their distant villages, the real threat was already walking within Rome's wall. What can destroy a city built by the gods? You are about to find out. While the borders of the Roman Empire were still holding barely, the true collapse was already taking shape at its core. What had once been a model system of organization, discipline, and loyalty became a machine clouded by greed, path, and political chaos, and no one seemed able to stop the tide. The economy, which for centuries had sustained entire regions and grand architectural projects, began to crack. The fields, exhausted by generations of intensive farming, no longer produced enough. Gold coins were replaced with lower value currency, triggering runaway inflation. Taxes rose without mercy, and small farmers unable to pay abandoned their lands in search of protection under powerful landowners. Thus, without realizing it, the seed of feudalism was born, but the decay went beyond economics. The Roman elite, those who once placed the state above themselves, became trapped in a constant struggle for power. Every ambitious general saw the imperial throne as a personal prize, not sacred duty. Between the years 235 and 284 AD, more than 20 emperors took the throne, many of them murdered by their own soldiers. The empire was not governed. It was fought over like spoils of war. The streets of Rome, once symbols of order and civic virtue, now witnessed riot, internal looting, and disillusioned population. Corruption seeped from the presses down to the legions. Soldiers no longer fought for honor, but to survive, and the enemy, though still distant, could already smell weakness in the air. Rome still looked imposing, but its soul was fractured. Because empires do not always fall because of invaders. Sometimes they collapse because they no longer believe in themselves, because they forget what made them great, and while the walls still stood, the true collapse had already begun. What if I told you that the very men who once swore to protect Rome would be the ones to open the gates to its destruction? For centuries, the Roman region had embodied order, power, and imperial pride. But over time, maintaining that colossal army became an unsustainable burden. Internal crises, dwindling resources, and growing reluctance among citizens to serve forced Rome into the separate decision to hire its former enemies as defenders of the empire. That is how the Visigoths, Vandals, Sway, and other Germanic peoples crossed the borders not as invaders but as allies. They were offered land, food, and a place within the empire in exchange for their swords. Some arrived with families, others with stories of hunger and destitution. What Rome saw as a practical solution would soon become a fatal mistake. The term barbarians were a Roman rebel for anyone who did not live under its laws. But many of these peoples had complex cultures, established power structures, and deeply rooted values. They were not savages. They were survivors, because those who Rome called barbarians did not forget. They did not forget the time Rome had destroyed their villages. They did not forget the taxes, the betrayals, the massacres, and so on. And although many of them tried to integrate, learning Latin, wearing the toga, worshipping Roman gods, they were always seen as the outsiders, as a silent threat. The Visigoths, in particular, experienced that contradiction brutally, treated with contempt by Roman bureaucrats, pushed into hunger and humiliation. They decided that if they could not be part of the empire, then they would destroy it from within. Their leader, or Alaric, was no savage. He was a strategist, and he knew that Rome, though it still rose over 7 hills, was more vulnerable than ever. Borders no longer meant anything because the enemy was no longer marching from the north. The enemy was inside the Roman camps, commanding its troops, planning its strategies, waiting for the right moment. And when that moment came, they did not need to scale the walls. They only had to stop obeying. Across the vast eastern steppes, where the wind whistles over the bones of ancient warriors, a figure emerged, cloaked in legend and fear, a tyrant and scourge of God. He was not Roman, not Visigoth, not Vandal. He was a Hun, and his name, spoken by emperors and peasants alike, carried almost religious tremor. Unlike the Germanic peoples who sought land within the empire, the Huns did not want to become part of Rome. They wanted to subdue it. Their goal was not integration, but devastation. Wherever the Huns rode, nothing remained. Entire cities vanished from the map. Fields burned, rivers ran red with blood, and at the center of this storm stood him, Aila, a leader who spoke little, but whom all obeyed without question. To the Romans, Aila was an anomaly. He did not respond to diplomacy. He could not be seduced by gold, at least not for long. He did not seek crowns, temples, or titles. His only purpose was to break the will of those who believed themselves invincible. In the year 441, the Western Roman legion allied with the Visigoths. Yes, those who had once been enemies faced Aila at the Battle of the Catalonian Plains. It was a slaughter without precedent. Through Alia's advance was halted, it was not a clear victory. The scourge of God withdrew, but he was not defeated. A year later, Alia marched toward Italy. Cities fled before he even arrived. Rome trembled. Pope Leo II fans went out to meet him. No one knows for certain what they said to each other. What is known is that Aila turned back. He did not sack Rome. He did not destroy the heart of the empire. Perhaps it was superstition, perhaps illness, or perhaps because it was no longer necessary. Rome was already dying from within. Aila did not conquer Rome, but he made it feel fear. And sometimes fear is more powerful than any sword. For centuries, Rome had been the jail of the world. Its walls seemed invulnerable, its emperors untouchable. For many, the very idea that Rome could be sacked was blasphemy. But in the year 410, that blasphemy became reality. When Alaric, king of the Visigoths, closed the gates of the eternal city. He did not break them down. He did not burn them. They were opened because the Romans themselves could no longer defend them. For 3 days, Rome was handed over to chaos. The homes of nobles were looted, temples desecrated, streets flooded with terror. The people, once accustomed to looking down on the so-called barbarians, now begged them for their lives. The empire that had conquered half the world fell before its former allies. But that was not the only blow. Nearly half a century later, in 455, a new horror arrived, the Vandals. This time, the sack was more systematic, more brutal. They loaded ships with treasures, statues, sacred relics. The gold of centuries of conquest vanished beyond the African horizon. Rome was no longer the capital of the world. It was a rooted shadow, wounded, humiliated, and yet the city did not disappear. Its stones remained, so did its history, but its soul had surrendered. In 476, Odoacer, a chieftain of Germanic origin, deposed the last emperor of the Western Roman Empire, Romulus Augustulus. There was no great battle, no heroic resistance, only an uneasy silence, as if Rome had finally accepted that its time was over. The empire that had endured for more than 1,000 years vanished without glory. Rome did not fall with a crash, it fell with a sigh, and the world was never the same again. The imperial eagles no longer flew above the walls. Rome's standards, symbols of absolute power, lay on the ground, but the end of the Western Roman Empire was not the end of the everything. It was the beginning of some new, uncertain, chaotic. In place of single authority, Europe fragmented. In the vacuum of power, Germanic kingdoms arose where Roman provinces once stood. The Visigoths founded their own kingdom in the Iberian Peninsula. The Vandals ruled from North Africa. The Ostrogoths settled in Italy. Imperial order was replaced by unstable alliances, endless wars, and a new social structure, federalism. But Rome did not disappear. Its roads, its law, its language all survived in one way or another. In monasteries, monks copied the ancient text so that knowledge would not be lost. In cities, the ruins served as carriers and shelters. Stones that once formed temples were transformed into Christian churches. Christianity, once persecuted by emperors, became the backbone of the new order. The church inherited Rome's spiritual authority and in time its political power as well. The Pope assumed a position that not even the consuls had once imagined. Meanwhile, the Eastern Roman Empire, known as the Byzantine Empire, endured for nearly another 1,000 years, preserving part of the Roman legacy. But the West, the cradle of Rome, sank into what historians would later call the Middle Ages. The fall of Rome was not merely the collapse of a city or a government. It was a seismic shift in human history. It marked the end of antiquity and the beginning of a new era. Because sometimes for something new to be born, the old must burn to its foundations. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this video and are passionate about this kind of content, subscribe to the Might and Wiggers channel, Mile, so you don't miss upcoming videos and discover more fascinating stories. See you in the next video.